to our seminar sponsors. They sponsor an entire year's worth of seminars, LaPensie Plumbing, Pools, and Air, and Veritas Pest Management. So big shout out to them, to thank them for helping us offer seminars all year long and complimentary ones right now via Zoom. So I'm going to let Tracy take it away.
We are going to go through just the basics today. And as I said a few minutes ago, we'll leave some time at the end so that people can ask questions about, virtual meetings in general, or any of the different types of fun things you can do on Zoom. Now, I'm going to disclaim that I don't work for Zoom. I'm not affiliated with them. I don't endorse it. I just use it a lot. And as you can see here, I do about half of my work using Zoom. I am a personal fundraising coach, which means I talk to people individually across the country and work with them on their fundraising. And then we have weekly meetings of fundraising coaches. So there's about 20 of us there, which is more like this scenario where you can see a lot of people going down the side. I also train boards of directors remotely and use it for committee meetings. So there's a lot of different types of usage you can have for it. Those are what I usually use it for. Here are the things we're going to cover. We're going to cover how to join a meeting, which technically you just did, but we'll talk about it anyway because there's a couple different ways that you can receive an invitation to join a Zoom meeting. So we'll go over it. And then we'll talk about if you're the one who is scheduling the meeting, and then how you can set up controls and use some of the features like screen sharing. There are two main ways that you can be invited to a meeting. This is the first one. It's an email invitation that includes a lot of detail. It's specific to this particular event. You create a meeting and this invitation goes only to this conversation. Now, when I send this invitation to people, I often take off a lot of this information because when you look at everything here, this one-tap mobile, dial by location, all of that, if somebody is not very technically comfortable or savvy, looking at all that can be confusing. So generally what people are going to use is the join Zoom meeting link, and that's all they're going to need. Sometimes they may need to put in the meeting ID, but for the most part, it just sends you right in. Now, if you're on your iPhone, Carrie probably did the one-tap mobile, or she could have gone in just through the link like the rest of us did on computers. Now, the second way that you can get an invitation to join somebody in a conversation is by using their specific URL. This is my personal meeting URL. That is supposed to make it easier because it's always your URL, it doesn't change, and that way you don't have to create a new one every time. So if you're wanting to talk automatically to somebody on your team, they can just put in your URL and meet with you right away without having to go through scheduling a call. Now, I don't use this very often because it doesn't change. People could use it in the future, whether or not you were wanting them to be on the call. And I don't know that happens very often, but just for me personally, I tend to like to schedule something just for the unique call. Now, if you have the subscription level above mine, and I'll show you the pricing in a few minutes here. If you have the subscription level above mine, you can have a vanity URL, like the vanity license plates. So mine would be zoom.us/Tracy Vanderneck or Philcom or something like that. But that is if you have a larger subscription to Zoom. So we looked at what it looks like when you receive an invitation to a Zoom meeting. Let's move on to how you schedule a Zoom meeting. And for today's purpose, we're just going to assume that you've already signed up to use Zoom. But in case you haven't and you're looking at doing it, here are the pricing options. A lot of people start with the free version so that they can test it out and see how they like it. But then as the 40-minute limit on group meetings becomes limiting, they upgrade to the paid version so that they have more flexibility there. When you log onto your Zoom screen, when you log onto your Zoom account, you're going to see this main dashboard. You go first to schedule a meeting up in the right-hand top margin. And then you'll fill out the information down the center about what the meeting is about, when it is, all that good stuff. What you type in that topic section is what's going to show up in everybody's invitation. So make sure it is ready for consumer viewing, whatever you put in there, because it is not an internal title. You can put the description if you want. If you're explaining to staff why you want them to meet, you can do that. Schedule times, just make sure that it is on your correct time zone. Now there are extra features, and the next slide we'll see more. The recurring meeting is good. Say, for example, if you have a staff meeting every Monday morning at 9. It's great to be able just to schedule it, have it recurring, and not have to schedule it individually every time. Here are some more of the specific settings that you can choose from. I generally, on my calls, don't have a high security setting. And the main reason for that is that some people are more and less comfortable with technology and how they log on. And I find that if I use passwords or security settings where there's extra steps, sometimes people that are logging on have more of a hard time with that, and it makes them more frustrated trying to get in. That doesn't mean it's not worth using. It just means it depends on who you're talking with, whether it makes sense to make it as easy as possible to get on. Now, if you were using Zoom to hold a board meeting or something like that, you might want to require a password. If you are hosting a large training for, a group of people, you might want to mark it so that they're muted when they come onto the call, but you can talk. That way you don't hear people typing in the background or hear their hold music or any of those things. I didn't do that because I wanted today to be a back and forth if people have questions, but it is very helpful if you are just doing specifically a presentation. This down at the bottom, the only authenticated users can join. That again is, if you need to have a more secure presentation. How's everybody doing with these two things about scheduling a meeting? Any questions?
All good.
All right. So you can also set default choices in your account in Zoom so that you don't have to choose them every single time you schedule a call. When you log on to your main Zoom desktop, your main screen, on the left-hand side, there's this Zoom margin or the Zoom menu. Choose settings, and that is what is going to bring up all of the different things that you can choose to have as your defaults so that it's set up the way you want it to be every time you log in. Now there's a lot of choices that you can go through, and it's going to be very specific to what you want. And I'm going to move our Zoom heads here, our pictures, so that I can see the whole screen. The chat window, I always choose to leave the chat window open because it's great for you guys to be able to talk with each other, or if there's somebody on there that you want to say hi to but you don't want me as the speaker to see it, great. A lot of people use chat to ask questions or to answer my questions, like you just did when you couldn't see the poll and you put it in chat. That worked perfectly. I don't autosave chats. Oops. I don't auto-save chats simply because, it seems like monitoring, but if you work in the type of company where you would record every conversation, then that makes sense. And the play sounds when participants join or leave, I leave it off just so that I don't have to listen to bing, bing, bing every time somebody comes on. Because if we look, there's 31 people on this webinar right now. So if we had to listen to 31 bings every time they came on,
Annoying.
that might not be great. File transfer is going to be really useful if you are working with your teams. Everybody is in unique circumstances right now. I'm used to working from here, so my whole office is set up and I have everything I need. Whereas many of you, because of COVID-19, are right now working out of your houses, which means you don't have all of the things that you normally have at your bricks and mortar office that you go to. So it's really good when you can meet with your team and transfer files real time while you're talking. There are a few more choices here. You can see I have the polls on, but probably should have tested it with somebody before I tested it on you. Thank you guys for helping me with that. I thought I would talk about this just for a second. This allow hosts to put attendee on hold. That has come up for the first time this week. I've been using Zoom for about 4 years to talk to clients every week. And I've never had occasion to do that. However, since the pandemic and since Zoom has been downloaded a cajillion times by everybody around the globe, there have been, of course, hackers trying to get into places because everybody's home and bored, and I guess hackers need something to do too. So what this does is if somebody enters your call or your video session that you didn't invite and you want to check that out, you can put them on hold so they're not actually interacting with everybody until you vet them and figure out if you wanted that person there. Or I would guess if you have somebody that was just really, really, really going in a direction that you didn't want them to, and you wanted to take a pause, you could probably use it for that as well. Showing your Zoom window screen, we're going to go through that in a minute. It's actually probably the most useful part of Zoom, other than being able to see who you're talking to, which is definitely the best. I use it for, I'm in the Association of Fundraising Professionals, and it's regional, so we often meet by Zoom for our committees because it's hard to get everybody together. But it's so much nicer than just a phone conversation because you can see how people are reacting to the things that you're talking about. Now, since there's so many, there's 32 people on today, I can only see a certain number of you that are on the screen, so I can't actually see how everybody's reacting. So if you're having a really emotive reaction, you're going to have to chat it to me because I can't see everybody on the same screen. But these are the choices that you can pick that will show up automatically when you schedule any call. You can have co-hosts. I have never done it because I've never needed to. I think that happens most often with the next subscription level up, where you have more people that are regular standard users of your Zoom account. There is a whiteboard on here. And it's just like what it sounds like, and you can see it in a minute. You can share a whiteboard that you can draw on or type on, and I do not have the talent of being able to use my cursor to draw anything that makes sense in any way, shape, or form. So if you are talented in that way, use a whiteboard, and it will even let you record the autosave what was on the whiteboard in case they're ideas or schematics or something that somebody came up with while you were on the session that you don't want to lose. Now down at the bottom here, I don't know how many people would be using that. I've never had occasion to use it. Breakout rooms, it's just like in a normal conference. If all of us were talking, 30 people on the call, and 5 people wanted to break out and have a separate conversation, if I had that clicked on, that would be a possibility. So it depends on how big your company is and how you know, how much you want to use this software to do. All right, so we talked about receiving an invitation, and we talked about how to schedule a call and how to set all of your system parameters to be the way that you want it specifically. Now let's look at when you're in a Zoom meeting, which you are in a Zoom meeting, so you already have a pretty good idea what you're able to see. When you log on, whether you're the host or the participant, when you open the screen, you're going to see the list of people who have joined the meeting. You're going to see their pictures down the side. You can choose how you want to see that. You should be able to click on the top, the thing that looks like a Rubik's Cube or a small grid. If you click that back and forth, it will put it into a view where you can not see everyone, but you can see only the person that's speaking at the time. Now, if you notice, if you can see 4 or 5 people on your screen right now, probably mine has some sort of highlighted line around it because I'm the one that's talking, depending on what view you have it in. That just lets you, it's a quick way if there's a lot of people on the call or if you're not familiar with everybody, it lets you know who's talking. But if you have speaker view, it flips back and forth. And that purely depends on how you process information and how you like to see it. That one drives me crazy when it's flipping people back and forth. So I just leave it as the Brady Bunch pictures.
I like the speaker view. I can see you have it on your thingy. That works for me because people ask me questions and I have more than one person talking, and I kind of want to direct my answers to that person who's speaking. So I kind of dig that whole highlighted square thing. That helps me.
Melissa, that's true. That is a good idea. And generally when I'm doing it, I don't have more than 5 people. So everybody's on the screen at the same time and it lights up. Like I said, with 30 some odd people on it, I don't always see them. But I believe it will pop them to the top of the ticker if they are talking.
Thank you.
And that's a good example. Be aware of that what people's screens look like depends on how they set their Zoom and whether they've logged in on an iPad, a phone, or on a computer. So what they see may not be exactly what you're seeing. And that was a good example of that. But the speaker view is definitely helpful in a lot of scenarios. Like Melissa said, you want to be, why, thank you. This is something I didn't mention in here, but that's good to know. When you're not video ready, which I've had clients, I've called them or Zoomed them at the appropriate time, and I get a blank screen, or some of you, it just has your name. You can, in your Zoom, put a picture on there. That way, if you want to attend a Zoom session, but you're still in your pajamas and you didn't want to get busted for, looking like you weren't actually at work, you can turn the video off and have just your name or your picture that you put on there as your main screen. So on the Zoom screen, you're going to see different icons. Now, I think different ones of you are probably seeing it in different places. Some it's going to be across the bottom. Some it's across the top. Right now, I can see both of them. But you should be able to, if you don't see a menu of icons, take your cursor and hover over the bottom of your screen or the very top of your screen, and then that list of icons should pop up. So you're going to see mute and unmute. It looks like a microphone. You'll see start video and stop video. So if I stopped video right now, what you would see is actually this same picture, because that's my Zoom background. But this is just a screenshot of it. Now going across, you can see participants. And then what we really want to look at is on mine, they're on the right side, there is a chat button that you can use to talk to each other and to ask the presenter questions. And as I mentioned earlier, it's sometimes good to have a second person monitor those, because when the presenter's talking, we get you know, on a roll with what we're talking about, and we don't always necessarily pay attention to the chat box. And it looks like
Oh, that's cool.
A few things in the chat box. Sorry, I have a couple monitors up, and my mouse does not want to play and show me work on the right one. All right, does anybody have questions? Okay, so somewhere across the top, have you used waiting room in Zoom? Okay, so the waiting room in Zoom, let's hold that thought till the end. And if I don't say anything about it, then you know, please ask again. We can absolutely talk about that. So on this screen, the chat is one of the main available things. And then the share button is what you're probably going to use most often. You can choose what you want to share, whether it is your whole screen or just one program like PowerPoint. So if I was here and clicked my green share folder, it would pop up this pop-up screen showing me everything that I had opened at the time, and those are my choices for what I can share. Now the one on the top left, that it's in blue and it says screen, that's the one I use all the time because it allows me to share everything on my desktop with you. I can go back and forth between websites, Excel spreadsheets, anything like that. Screen 2 is just actually my second monitor, so it's only showing you what's in, you know, what's the wallpaper on your second monitor. Whiteboard is the one thing that we just talked about a minute ago. Certain organizations, that may be very useful. You can also type in on the whiteboard. So if you wanted to, you know, type a note or something to remember, or say you're using this for strategic planning. You're having a strategic planning meeting with 5 people and you want to be able to mark down what your SWOT analysis items were or what your goals and objectives are. You can type them into the whiteboard and then have that saved so that you don't have to, everybody doesn't have to take notes on their own. It's an option. Now, you can also see down on the left underneath the one with my picture, basics of Zoom. That is if you just want to share just the one program. So if you just want to do a PowerPoint to share with people, or if you just want to go over financials and you just want to show them a Google Sheet or an Excel spreadsheet, you can use that. Now, remember that when you are sharing these things, people are going to see your desktop. So don't forget to vet what pictures you have on your desktop. Your desktop used to belong to only you. Now it belongs to everybody that you are sharing screens with. So just make sure, you know, if there's weekend pictures on there, make sure that that's what you really want on there.
I have a question, Tracy.
Yes, absolutely, Melissa.
If you want to, is it better to have whatever program or, for instance, notes or whatever that you want to share with your meeting, is it better to have them open prior to coming into the meeting, or is it hard to get it open while you're in the meeting? I mean, obviously that's going to take up time.
I open them all ahead of time, and I should be able to show you.
So you should have everything open before you go into a Zoom meeting on your laptop or whatever you're using.
Yep. Okay. So I thought that at some point we might want to look, or you might want to know that you could see a website. So I opened this website ahead of time so that when people get off this call, and hopefully, you guys are still seeing my screen, correct?
Yes.
Okay. I did this as an example of exactly what Melissa's talking about. If there's different things that you want to be looking at with the group, first I wanted you to see this PowerPoint that we're going through, but I also wanted you to be able to see that we can go to websites and other options. Now, you can also go to any file that you want from here. I didn't actually open any files, but I do that often. And I often go to my Google Calendar. If I'm with a client and we're setting up our next meeting, I go to my Google Calendar, which also has made me change the way that I put things on my Google Calendar. Now I don't put a very personal description of what I'm planning on doing. I might put, codes or shortened versions so everybody doesn't know when I'm going to get my hair cut or something like that. If you're going to share your screen and your calendar with people.
And
Okay,
if I could ask one more question.
Of course.
If you do have a second monitor open, does the second monitor, can your group meeting see what's going on the second monitor? I noticed that the other day that I was doing one and the information that I wanted open came up on my second monitor. Do they see that over there, or is it
yes.
only on one monitor?
Share sound. When I set up the meeting, it asked me which screen I wanted to show when I first went into it today. So you can do either, or you can do the thing where you swap back and forth between the two. Like it asked me to, as soon as I opened the PowerPoint, it asked, which version, what I want to see on the main screen. Do I want to see the main like the presentation PowerPoint, or do I want to see the one with speaker notes?
Yeah, I see here you have screen 1, screen 2, so you can bounce back and forth between the two. So let's just say if I'm talking to my people on screen 1, but I want to show them and it's opened on screen 2, I can just click screen 2 and it's going to go right to my notes.
Absolutely. And I would do that, but this is just a screenshot, so there's not actually anything there right now.
Right.
But yes, you can go back and forth, and that's very helpful if you have, say, an agenda on one screen and the document that you're talking about on another screen. You can do that. You can also just have them all open on your main screen if you have just one laptop or computer, and just use Alt-Tab to toggle back and forth between, to go to the different program or document that you wanted to see.
Tracy, are you taping this or videoing this so that we can watch it again later in case it's too much? Oh, good. Thank you.
Yep, absolutely. And somebody asked about the whiteboard. I can, once we're finished with the PowerPoint, I can bring it up and show you. This is just a static picture, so I can't click on it right now, but I can show you what that looks like. So you can see from this that it really is very versatile. So whether you have whether you have an accounting firm or an architectural firm, there's the ability to share enough information and document that information and record it, that it really is just as effective, sometimes even more effective than meeting in person. Now, if you're in a board meeting, some boards don't like recordings and some do, but you can record the entire board meeting so that the secretary doesn't actually necessarily have to keep track of every single thing, because then they'll have a recording to go back to. Okay, so when the session is over or close to over, okay, we're record button. As we discussed earlier, everybody is probably seeing this line in a different part of your screen. Generally, the speaker, when I log on to a session that's hosted by Network for Good, I can see a little button up in the left-hand side that's red that shows me that it's being recorded. Now that I'm the speaker and I clicked record, I can't actually see that. So I'm just having faith that because I clicked it to record, that's what it's doing. But the record button may be on the main screen like this, or you may need to go to the ellipses, and click on that to find the record button. And you can do that you can have it set to do it automatically. When you set the parameters for what you want this meeting to be like, or what you want every meeting to do, back in the system settings we looked at earlier, you can set it so that it automatically records everything. I don't do that because then you get 10 minutes in the beginning of everybody saying hello to everybody, people saying, can you hear me? Somebody typing, anything like that. So that's why I don't just automatically record it, but that's purely up to you whether you think that that's going to be useful to you. Now, here on the bottom right, you can see that you as an attendee anytime have the option to leave the meeting. Alternatively, if you need to get up and go out and talk to the FedEx person during the session, you can just click stop or start video and have it go just to your name, so that people aren't seeing your empty seat the whole time you're gone. But when you're ready to leave the meeting, just click leave meeting. Now, if you are the person running the meeting, yours will have the option to end meeting for all. And that's the one that will hang up for everybody. So that is the end of the main functions on Zoom screen here. So as you can see, this is when you logged onto the Zoom earlier, I already had the presentation open. So when you logged on, you saw people and you saw my PowerPoint. But now that I've closed the PowerPoint, you can see basically anything on my computer that I want to share with you. Now you can see my file explorer, right? So if I was going to look for a document, I can do that. Now, when I'm talking to clients, if I need to look for a document, I click stop share, which I will do now. So now this is what you see on Zoom if nobody is sharing their screen. So if you, for example, were just going to have a chat with a lot of people and you don't need to share anything, this is what you're going to see. So now do you see 20 or 30 people?
I'm on speaker view, so.
Nods, yes, anybody? Okay. And you see a lot of people without video at all, and that's perfectly fine. You can usually tell if somebody is on their computer or if they're on their phone. Like Erica's shows a picture of a phone instead of a picture of a microphone. So because of that, if you see that when you're meeting with somebody, you may want to double check with them to ask if they actually can see your screen or if they're just listening to you. Because if you think they can see your screen and you're sharing all this stuff and really they're just sitting in a coffee shop listening to you, it can cause quite a disconnect. And not that that's ever happened to me, and not that I wasn't aware that somebody couldn't see my screen. So that's how you can navigate around and share with people or just see them. Now, somebody asked earlier if I use waiting rooms. I don't use waiting rooms. Who was it that asked? Do you want to? Lil P. Lil P asked about, it sounds like a rapper name, I like it. She asked about using waiting rooms, and that is a setting that you can do in the system settings or for the individual call that you're setting up. I have not used it. What I do is allow people to join before me as the presenter or the moderator. That way, if you want to log on at 10 till to make sure that all your technology is working and, just so you can be comfortable that you're there, but I'm not on yet, you can do that and you're there, and that's fine. The waiting room is different from what I understand. The waiting room, from what I've read about it, is people wait in there and then you have to approve them one by one to come into the actual Zoom meeting.
Okay.
Does anybody else know any different on that waiting room?
I've never used it.
All right, we gotta chat here. Let's see. All right. Seth wants to know if we can show the cool backgrounds that people are using. Yes. It's been, I don't know about you guys, but it's been hilarious this last couple of weeks watching on Facebook everybody post pictures of themselves in front of their crazy backgrounds. I personally want the one that has Hogwarts in the background because I'm a total nerd. And you can make your own. You can upload your own photo there. What I will say is they're very fun for staff meetings. The Network for Good People that I work with, they have morning coffees by Zoom with each other. They're in all different states, but they all have their, different coffee mugs, and they sit and they have their morning meeting having virtual coffee. Great, use the backgrounds then. They also have sometimes evening cocktail meetings and do the same thing.
Mimosa
so
morning.
What's that?
Mimosa mornings.
Mimosa, see, there you go. There's all sorts of ways. And those are things that, because I work by myself, I don't necessarily think of. But if all of you, if some of you have teams and you're looking for ways to keep interacting during this time of social distancing, that's a good way to do it. Or if you're looking for a way to meet with a client, say Lisa Hoban wants to meet with somebody that she's potentially going to be planning an event for, instead of just having a Zoom meeting, she can have a virtual coffee if that makes it more interesting. Any of those things are available. So me personally, I wouldn't use them. What's that?
And very effective.
Yeah, and very effective. Exactly. Yes. This Zoom is honestly probably the most effective and useful tool that I use on a daily basis. Now, I would never use a background with a client. However, I don't do anything funky. Like if you have a cool organization, or you're a graphic designer, or whatever, if you run a tattoo parlor, of course you can, use whatever backgrounds you want. But because I'm a fundraising consultant, it doesn't really translate into having Hogwarts behind me, but I would do it if I could get away with it. So you just go to, there should be a little drop down arrow next to your start and stop video. Click on that and scroll down to choose a virtual background. It doesn't like my green shirt, because a green shirt is like a green screen, right? You can project anything onto it that you want. So it's picking my shirt instead of my background.
So your shirt now has the image on it.
Yes, I'm grass, apparently.
Yeah, you are.
So, and you can see the little pixelations behind me where it's trying to put a background on me, but because I haven't set it up appropriately, it's not doing it. But that is how you would do it. So Seth, if you had a great picture and you click add image and set it up just the right way, then whenever you went on there, you could put something behind you. It's just that I haven't done it. So if I go to new share and whiteboard, share, there we go. There's the whiteboard feature. Is everybody seeing the whiteboard now? Mm-hmm. And my fabulous artwork. I guess because I have a touch screen, I could technically do that. Yeah, if you have a touch screen, it's easier. But you can put text on here.
Tracy?
Mm-hmm.
I see it, but where did you go to get that screen?
I went to under that the green share box, or the thing that looks like a folder that says share, where you can share your screen. You can go over, instead of sharing your screen, you go to share whiteboard. And that's why you should be right now seeing my whiteboard. And then there's the save button so that you can save whatever was on here if you didn't already have it set up to do that. We have just a couple minutes left. Are there any questions, or something that we didn't cover, or any questions just about virtual meetings at all? Or since more than half of you have been doing Zoom sessions already, if any of you have tips and tricks that you want to unmute and share with everybody, we're very happy for you to do that. Beth, thank you for joining us. I appreciate that. And yes, if you're ready and you have to get off the call, absolutely do. We, for all intents and purposes, we're finished. Thank you for joining us and participating. And hopefully just these basic functions of Zoom will help you host effective meetings with your staff and your clients. If anybody that stays on has a question, you are very welcome to ask it. Thank you, Susan.
And this is Erica Massey with the Chamber, and I wanted to thank you, Tracy, very much. This is very interesting. And I also wanted to thank our sponsors again, LaPenzie Plumbing Pools and Air, and Veritas Pest Management.